Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey to the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Tris.
And I'm Joy.
And for today's episode, we are finally back to the classics. No more movies, no more modern seasons to catch up on. We're back to the classics now, with the very start of Season 3 being Galaxy 4, but also jumping back to a Season 1 episode that we found a way to watch, being Marco Polo. And I think we're going to start with Marco Polo first, because we might have more to say on that one, especially since this is going back to Season 1 after we finished Season 2. So we get to go back and see the lack of character development in the Doctor, for example.
Yeah.
So this was interesting, because once I was like 3 episodes in, I kind of looked at it, I'm like, how is there 4 more episodes to this serial? Like, that's my initial takeaway from this. It was the pace it was moving at. I even now that it's done, I don't understand how they pace this to 7 serials or 7 episodes of the serial. I think it easily could have fit in 3 or 4.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking that too, because like basically they just have multiple episodes where Tagana does like a new evil plan, and then the heroes try to sneak into the TARDIS, and they just do that like 3 times in the middle there.
There's a lot of going in circles and meandering, and it doesn't really actually go anywhere for a while. You also have... was this like a serial where the Doctor was like kind of going on vacation or something?
Because he got sick, I believe.
Okay, that's what it was. Because
for episode 2, he was sick.
Okay. Because it was because it was a second episode where he just like wasn't even there. But then there was also like quite a few extended scenes where he was just kind of gone, and it felt like they just had him record some audio from the other room, kind of thing.
Yeah, I know he got sick for episode 2, so that's why he wasn't in that one. And then maybe he was still trying to recover after that.
Yeah,
type thing.
That's fair. It was definitely interesting. I mean, the premise of Marco Polo, right? I mean, for those who aren't able to watch it, because it's not as easy. I mean, you have them land in... Well, was it the Himalayas? I forget exactly where they landed, but they landed in the snowy mountain, building off of that cliffhanger from, I believe, the Edge of Destruction of the giant footprint in the snow. And then it turns out they run into Marco Polo and his whole caravan, and they're amused by the Doctor's caravan of the TARDIS. So Marco Polo decides, you know what, this is mine now, and I'm gonna give it to the Great Khan as a gift. So you're not quite my prisoners now, but basically my prisoners. And that was the energy for like 6 out of the 7 episodes here.
Yeah, we get to the palace at like towards the end of episode 6, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where things start to change.
Yeah, the entire energy of the serial really changed once they hit that point.
Yeah. I also didn't realize that the cliffhanger from Edge of Destruction actually was from this.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, they say they find a footprint that's way too big for a man to find, and then the explanation is just, well, maybe it just melted a bit, and that's why it looks weird. Like, okay, I guess we're just not going to do anything there.
I actually thought they were going to build up to, like, oh, Marco Polo and everyone's being followed by something from the mountains.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that's what it was going to build up to. But after we got, like, 3 episodes in, I'm like, oh, that's just, like, fully dropped down, isn't it? Like, I don't think we're going back to that at all. Wow. All right.
I mean, that's what they kind of do with cliffhangers, is they don't really amount to much, typically, in these stories.
Not really. Now, there's one really funny moment I have noted here from Susan. Actually, as a quick tangent, though, this is actually, like, a good serial for Susan for the most part. Because she's actually doing something, she's bonding with somebody, and she's actually getting a lot of scenes, which, given this was, I think, the 4th serial of the show, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I wish we had this originally, but then we also go into the fact that she doesn't really develop much from this either. So I guess it didn't really do anything in the end, but it was nice that she didn't do nothing this time. But I have in my notes here the one moment of the funny cliffhanger of her screaming in the wall of eyes, or the cave of eyes, or whatever it's called, where she claims the eyes in the wall moved. But what we watched was more so a recreation using the audio of the episode and still images. So she screamed they moved, but we had no proof of that as viewers.
Yeah, that was definitely a funny moment there.
But I want to know how, like, what did they look like? Did they have like almost like eyes carved out and like a mask? Like somebody actually looked in there to see that they moved? Like, how did they show that?
Yeah. I guess they would have just like really zoomed in on the eyes or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. But
I definitely quite liked her friendship with Ping Cho in this.
Yeah.
Though. Like they had a very great friendship there.
Yeah, I really liked that. And I think this did add a lot to Susan's character in terms of what we kind of saw from the Aztecs as well, of Susan's stance on like marriage and like what women do, so to say, back in those times. And that's big. They didn't lean into that anywhere near enough as they should have, but it was interesting to see that they did it again here.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much so that she convinced her she didn't want it.
The writer of this serial is also the same one that did the Aztecs as well.
Okay.
I think he did a third one. I don't remember what the third one was, though. But yeah. So it kind of makes sense. It has some similar ideas at play there.
Yep. It's a shame that they're like the only times those come up. But
yeah.
I guess it makes sense. That writer had a vision. Why do we not have that writer more? They had something to do for Susan. Why did they not come back?
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually really liked Ping Cho's character. I like the fact that Susan had a friend throughout all of this that was kind of becoming a temporary companion in her own right. Like she learned to trust everybody and Susan and kind of do what she believed was right, as opposed to just having loyalty, which I leave it to time travelers to meddle a bit there.
Yep. It is also kind of nice that Ping Cho is actually played by a person of color.
Yes.
Can't say that about like anyone else in the story, but
yeah. It definitely. I mean, same problem as the Aztecs in that case, but it was nice that she was better cast than most of the others.
And then the same actress does actually come back in the Sarah Jane Adventures. She plays the vicar in The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith.
Oh,
like,
really?
Way later.
Wow. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's... Wow. Of all the appearances to make.
Yep.
But other than Ping Cho, I do want to note that since this is back in season 1, and relatively early season 1, we're back to main protagonist Ian.
Yeah,
with
sure.
the doctor being the Duffy old man yet again. We have Ian as the main focus here, being the one to befriend Marco Polo, being the one to actually try to do something about the situation constantly. The doctor trying to, but only actually causing more trouble most of the time.
Yeah.
So we're back in protagonist Ian.
And the doctor's just like, I'm smarter than you, so I'm just not going to bother dealing with you.
Constantly.
Basically.
Constantly. And the one I'm iffy on is Barbara, and how Barbara was handled, because she really was made to mostly be a damsel, especially in, like, the one episode. Like, she mostly was the damsel. She was the person most suspicious of Tagana, but they didn't really do much with her character. She was there to support Susan. She was there to be worried about Susan, but I actually feel like Barbara was there to motivate Ian more than anything else. She was the one constantly telling him to go talk to Marco Polo or to go look for Susan, and like she was like Ian's voice in all of this to actually motivate him to do something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I feel like they kind of had that issue in some of the early stories as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Daleks, she's kind of like in the first episode, she's there to just get captured by them.
Yeah, it just kind of
stuff like that.
I don't know, for a historical episode like this, it kind of bothered me how she didn't shine here, which is why I'm glad she did later on in the Aztecs. But
Yeah.
it was a little disappointing seeing this 7-episode serial set in the past, and Barbara didn't really have a lot to add in terms of his historical commentary.
Yeah, she just had like a line here or there, like, I know you're going to get back to Venice, Marco.
Yep.
It's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, but that's
Stuff like
also
that.
the whole case of, like, time traveler knowledge.
Yeah.
Actually, I need
Which
to
they
talk
do
about
actually
that.
tell him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do tell him they had a time machine.
Yeah, that's like twice Ian has done that. Ian has gone into, all right, I'll tell you the truth. I'm from the future.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm very curious why he just kind of goes for it as much as he does.
Yeah.
Like, yes, in modern Doctor Who, we have the Doctor doing that, but the Doctor has a lot more science fiction whimsy nowadays to say that with aliens about and make someone believe it. Whereas Ian has a lot more convincing to do that he doesn't really do. He tells them, gives like the most basic of explanations. He goes, all right, do you believe me?
Yeah. It probably doesn't help him that like he doesn't really know how the TARDIS works very much.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for him to explain it.
Yeah. But it's pretty funny. Like, it'd be one thing if he, like, you know, reveals something that he shouldn't have knowledge of. I appreciated the conversation between him and Marco Polo about the difference in time between events they talked about. Like, oh, that was only 25 years ago. No, that was like 800 years ago, sir.
Yeah. And they were talking about the Crusade, which eventually Ian would get involved with.
Yep. Which I don't even know they had that planned back then, but that's a fun coincidence if they did not.
Yeah.
Actually, could that have been the yellow one that the same writer came back for?
I can just briefly look it up.
Because I'm actually curious about that. While you're looking that up, though, I am curious how we feel about Marco Polo as a character. Because that's why I wanted to build up to here. Because I don't know how to feel about him. Like, I understand his ideals and the way he handled himself, but I also feel like he didn't really do much. The entire serial was so focused on him that it was all the TARDIS team and Tagana and Marco Polo barking in order, basically.
Yeah, I felt it was a bit weird how it's like the whole time he just completely believes Tagana, like 100%, and at no point does he ever really start to question him. Like you're escorting a warlord that works for another warlord to Kublai Khan, and you just never question that, like, he keeps doing evil things and people keep telling you about it. So, like, you would think that maybe he might be an assassin or something.
Because he, for some reason, he trusts him, even though I feel like doubt should have settled in when Ping Cho started saying, like, no, there is something up here. They're right. I think that should have had doubt start settling in, and we should have had that kind of develop as it went on. Like, him still giving orders to Tagana to do things, but then starting to send someone after him to see what happens, or kind of thing. Like, clearly starting to cast suspicion, and then choosing to side with the Doctor and Ian and everything by the end. Because the way he did at the end was really not satisfying. The way he finally took their side felt more like, well, I don't have any other choice anyway, so I believe you. It's just, that's it? Really? That's it?
Yeah. And then after multiple episodes of refusing to give them the TARDIS keys, he just, like, gives them back to them very randomly.
Right at the end. And then everyone watches the TARDIS dematerialize. Everyone's there, and they watch it and just like, wow, we can never tell anyone about this.
Yep. Also, the writer wrote a story we haven't watched yet. It's his third one.
Oh, okay. So
it's The Massacre, which is later this season.
Ah, okay. So something in season 3 then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. I was just curious if it was the Crusade since that got mentioned, but no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as a whole, Marco Polo was an entertaining watch or listen, I guess, depending on how we did it.
Yeah.
But I I think it could have been 4 episodes instead of 7.
Yeah. I think the length kind of helps you get a sense of like how big of a story it is for them, because like they're on this adventure for several weeks at least,
Yeah.
probably like a couple months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of helps with like how epic the story is, but at the same time, you can definitely feel why eventually Doctor Who starts to just do 4-parters,
Yeah.
because it works quite a bit better.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of there were a couple times where I felt like they had 7 episodes blocked out for this, and they had to come up with things to do.
Yeah,
Because after Barbara got kidnapped, that should have been like a big turning point that you could solve the rest of the story in 1, maybe 2 episodes.
yeah.
And that was like maybe halfway.
Also, I did like the Doctor's like dynamic with Kubla Khan at the end there, where they
Yes,
just like immediately bond
that
with each other, and then they
that
play
was
backgammon
fun.
and everything. He
That
almost
was
wins the
fun.
TARDIS, and this is also the first time that we see him with his walking stick.
Oh, that's
Was
true.
when they got there. So I think it kind of implies that like maybe one of the people there gave it to him,
I guess
but they
so.
don't
Yeah.
exactly explain where he got it from.
That would have been nice to have an explanation, but yeah, his dynamic there was really nice, and it was refreshing to get something else from him that wasn't just him complaining about the TARDIS or scheming about getting back into the TARDIS. There, like, sure,
Yeah,
it was a scheme to win back the TARDIS, but there was more to his character and a little bit of whimsy going on that made it more entertaining at that point.
yeah. Just for some more trivia that I found about this,
Mm-hmm.
so this serial was mostly directed by Waris Hussein, who also did An Unearthly Child.
Okay,
But episode 4 was directed by John Crockett, who also directed The Aztecs later on.
interesting.
And Marco Polo was actually a very popular story, apparently. It's not only Carol Ann Ford's favorite special, but also William Hartnell's favorite special.
Huh.
And ironically, this serial was sold to 19 different countries, which is more than any other 1960s serial,
Wow.
despite the fact that we have not found a single copy of it.
That's
And then also,
really weird.
in July 1964, the BBC was approached by none other than Disney about asking if they would like it to be a movie. And then I guess nothing ever happened of that.
Instead, they just made the Dalek movies.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Daleks were probably mostly Terry Nation really wanted
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I mean, the BBC was involved because, like, they own the look of a Dalek is owned by the BBC, whereas the concept of a Dalek is owned by Terry Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was involved, but yeah,
You know,
they
if you
did want to make a
really-
movie of this.
if you really look at Marco Polo, if you remove all the cliffhangers, it is kind of paced like a movie, isn't it? It has that
Yeah.
kind of like same journey and like the way the rising actions and climax happen. It is actually very movie like. Even the end, like the ending is different than how we feel we typically get with other Doctor Who stories. It very much is we're in the climax for quite a while, and then and then like the biggest part happens. It's like, all right, go now.
Yeah.
That would have been really interesting to see it as a movie because you know what, it is probably one of the serials that could have worked. Keys and Marinus is probably the
Yeah.
other one that could have done well, but
I feel Keys of Marinus, you'd have the issue of you have like 6 different locations, and maybe that wouldn't work the best in like an hour and a half.
yeah, that's true.
But you
It
could
would
probably
depend
just
on
like cut
pacing.
out one or two from the middle there, and just
You could
simplify
probably
it a bit.
you could probably make the murder trial section a lot shorter.
Yeah. But yeah, this was an interesting story. Not my favorite by any means, of course.
Yeah,
But
not
I
my
didn't-
favorite either.
I didn't dislike it.
I enjoyed my time with it, but it's not up there for me.
I did
But-
like a lot of the dialogue too, I have to say. Like,
Yeah,
it's kind of like very poetic dialogue for a lot of it.
that's very true. That's very true. There was a lot of like really good lines, both from like Marco Polo, from the Doctor, from Ian. Like there was a lot of like really good lines in all this.
Yeah.
And this was an early serial, so that's actually like kind of promising. Yeah.
Also, another note I had here is that the sandstorm scene was so weird and so very difficult to hear as
Oh
well.
God, yeah. I forgot
Like
about that.
there
Yeah,
was
I forgot to write something down. Yeah, that was rough.
there
I
was
don't know what
weird
happened
laughing
there.
for some reason. I don't know why laughing was
I
part of the sound.
so I think it's a case. I think the case they were trying to make is it's like the noises it makes is like unholy. Like it sounds
Yeah, I guess.
terrifying. It's like the sounds of like it makes it sound like this creature is laughing in the night and like the wind howling at every turn and the dust hitting everything. It sounds like you're going insane, I guess, is what they wanted to convey. But
Yeah. I will say I wish these had subtitles as well. Just because
yeah.
like the audio quality is not good. So having subtitles would be very nice, but they just don't have them.
hmm Instead, they have the little subtitles, description, like the visual descriptions for when there's something to look at that there's no audio for, like the doctor walks over to here or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Marco
I mean like
Polo's neat story. Didn't love it, but I'm glad we actually got to go back and find a way to watch it.
yeah. It was nice to watch it.
hmm And that brings us back up to where we are properly in the list with the start of season 3, Galaxy 4. This was interesting. I watched both the full animated version and then also the soul surviving third episode of the serial to actually just get an idea of what it properly looked like back then.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm a fan of how Flash animation the animation kind of looks, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was a
it
little
was
low budget looking at times.
yeah. I would say it was I liked it better than I forget what the other one we watched was, but like the French one. I liked it
Oh
better than that look,
yes, Reign of
but
Terror.
yeah, Reign of Terror. I liked it better than that look, but yeah, it's not the best.
Yeah,
It's
I did
definitely
like it.
cheap.
I did like it better than that because there wasn't like the random like really close zoom ins of the faces. But
Yeah.
it did feel like low budget Flash animation at times.
I mean, that is kind of the issue is that they really don't put a lot of money into these things
Yeah,
because it's a very niche market that for people that want animations for old Doctor Who episodes.
yeah, of
So
course.
they are typically very low budget.
hmm But this was an interesting story though because we got a lot from the Doctor as we kind of know him to be now. We got a lot from
Yeah.
Vicky as a good reminder, comparison wise, of what Susan does versus what Vicky does.
Yeah.
We got to see Steven do a little bit more than constantly lose fights as we had last time,
Yeah.
and a really interesting new pair of alien races.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting idea they had there. I will say, this story was originally written for the Ian and Barbara team, so Steven is basically just Ian and
Okay.
Barbara's roles just combined into him, basically.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I could see that.
I liked like the don't judge a book by its cover type idea they played with here,
Mhm.
where it's the weird slug creatures that are the good people and
Yep.
the human people that are the bad people.
Yep, exactly. And it lets you kind of see what their actual ideals are. And like you mentioned, just because they look scary doesn't mean they're actually evil. And there's that whole like really good speech by the Rills at the end of like the Doctor's ideals and how he upholds them and why he needs to survive.
Yeah, I definitely quite liked the Rills.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought they were really cool, the way they were handled and the way they developed a way to actually like still interact with everybody and do stuff on the planet despite needing to stay in their little atmospheric bubbles, basically.
Yeah, they had to use their chumblies.
Yeah, the Chumblies are so fun. I like how they're just like you call them Chumblies, do you? And then they just roll
Yep.
with it. They're like, all right, sure. For your understanding, we'll call them Chumblies too. Why not?
Yep. Apparently, the Chumblies were like their last ditch attempt to try to see if they could make something that would be like a good toy to make or something.
Yeah, they're
then-
noticeably very Dalek shaped.
Yeah, after this, they just kind of give up on trying to make merchandisable things.
Mm-hmm. I can
Because
kind of
nothing
tell.
nothing competes with the Daleks for
No,
that market, so
no. These
they just kind of give up.
unfortunately, the Chumblies kind of look like a Dalek someone would make out of scraps from a junkyard. No offense at all
Yeah,
to
kind
it,
of.
but it's like it's like the junkyard Dalek that you would like have a kid play with, kind of thing. Well, if you made it out of scraps where you can find it has the general kind of shape to it, a kid can look at it and go, "Yeah, it's Dalek," and just have fun with it,
Yeah,
kind of thing. It didn't. They were kind of cute though, to be honest, with the noises they made and the way they moved. Seeing the actual like live action version of them as well definitely kind of reinforced that kind of junkyard look to them. But
yeah,
in the animation, the way they moved, it was really funny how whenever they kind of like closed up, it really looked like nothing happened to them. They just kind of like, oh, okay, like Wally closing up or something.
yeah. I do have to say that after having watched the live action version, I don't really like what they did with the real ship, because I feel in live action it works so much better where it's like very obviously just a temporary shelter type
Yeah.
thing, where it's just like steel beams with like plastic between it.
Yep.
I understand why in the animation they didn't do that, because like you just want to kind of simplify it, because you could kind of see like the outside atmosphere behind it and stuff. So for the animation, it makes sense to simplify it, but it definitely looks a lot better in live action, I would say.
Yeah, the live action looked a lot better because it better sold the idea that they had crashed and that they were damaged
Yeah.
and they were like trying to repair and whatnot. Never really got that sense from looking at it in the animation. So I was actually a little suspicious of that at first. Like once we actually saw the inside, I'm like, there doesn't look like there's any damage here. I
Yeah.
wonder if they actually did crash. But then, yeah, they went on. I'm like, oh, okay, they did. They just didn't animate it to look like that. Okay, sure.
Yeah, because in the animation, it kind of feels like they're just like inside the ship proper, but
Yep.
then in the live action version, it very clearly tells you that like they're not actually in the ship; they're just next to the ship,
Yeah.
in like a temporary structure that was built onto it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It could have been conveyed better in multiple ways. It
Yeah.
definitely could have been conveyed better in the animation. There's definitely some areas of the animation that I looked at and I'm like, that shouldn't have been funny. And I wish they did a little bit more with it. Like when Steven knocks out one of the soldiers to get their weapon. In the live action, you can see he actually like knocks her out. In
Yeah.
the animation, he like just holds his hand over her mouth and like she just falls over.
But yeah, what do you think of the Dravens? I guess.
The Jovans were interesting because I thought they would have gone a little bit more into how they were obviously cloned from their leader.
Yeah,
But then seeing the live action and they didn't all look like her, I went, oh, I guess that wasn't meant to be the case. They're just meant to be like the grown artificial life forms. But the animation made them specifically look like they were clones of her.
yeah. It kind of makes sense to make them all look identical in the animation. Like I understand why they did that. It also saves money, and it conveniently makes sense.
Yeah, no,
But yeah,
I
they
definitely
definitely-
understand why. I definitely understand
They definitely
why
look-
they all look the same, but
Yeah, they definitely look quite a bit different in the live action parts.
because they're like actually different people in different costumes. But
Yeah, they
But,
didn't try
yeah.
to get similar people.
no, and I think it works to sell the idea of like they're like some sort of clones or like artificial, like for them all to look the same. But the fact that they specifically looked like clones of the leader felt like it should have come up.
Yeah,
But I think because that was an animation only thing done later on, that's clearly why it didn't. They were brutal though, to be honest. They were like pretty brutal.
yeah. I kind of wish they did. Like they delved into it a bit more about how like the clone ones didn't actually fully agree with the leader and stuff.
Yeah,
because you could feel that at times.
I thought they were going to go into that more. They didn't. And I also thought we would have had the doctor or someone give them a chance to survive at the end.
Yeah,
But no, they're just chased into the TARDIS and they these enemies stay out and are forced to stay while the planet explodes. The one thing they were trying to avoid the entire time.
I kind of wish we had a surviving part of like how that looked in live action, to be honest.
I'm really curious. I imagine it was a bunch of flashing lights. I imagine it was a bunch of flashing lights and camera angle from like torso up, so they could just have them like fall back or like crouch down to pretend they like fell into something.
Yeah.
I think it would have been done like that.
But then the animation has them like fall into lava and stuff.
Which was also pretty brutal. She just shoves one of them off of her, the leader.
Yeah.
Like,
we even see a Chumbly go in there.
We do, sadly, but they knew the Chumblies were gonna... The Chumblies were gonna sacrifice themselves, basically. We knew that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a brutal end for these ones. Although one of them technically survived. One of them was still, like, paralyzed on the real ship. So...
Well, that was, like, the temporary structure outside of the ship, though, still.
Oh, so that's right!
They probably wouldn't
that's right,
have
the animation lied to us.
Yeah.
That's right. Because in the animation, it's like literally like clearly part of the ship, but that's not what it... That's right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the Chumbly would have brought them inside, but we don't know.
I think they would have, because they didn't want to kill them. They really didn't want to kill them, but...
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I think as a whole, this was definitely interesting to get that perspective of the Doctor and companions caught in like a war between two different races, and then you like really learn the context to both and how what's right, what's wrong, and how the Doctor could try to save everybody, which we haven't had a ton of at this point.
Yeah, and they quite notably did like the exact opposite of the Dalek story, where the Daleks say the Thals are mutated monsters, but then the Daleks are actually the mutated monsters.
Yeah.
And when we meet a Thal, it's just, oh, you look like a human. You must be a good guy. And in this, they flip that on its head.
Thankfully.
I think it also makes sense how Vicky is the one who first meets the Brills, because, like, in the rescue, she had her pet Sandy. Yep. So, like, she's obviously not, like, bothered by ugly creatures.
Yeah, she's definitely more open-minded to aliens and all than some others. I'm glad she had stuff to do. Like, I was glad that she was the one to meet them and then to have to stop the Doctor. Like, she's getting things to do, and after Susan and a reminder of what little Susan had to do, it's still refreshing a season later.
Yeah.
Kind of funny that Steven was the damsel, but...
Yeah. Behind the scenes, there was a lot of complaints from the cast.
Oh, yeah?
Where they all very much didn't like it. I know Peter Purvis, who plays Steven, complained that Steven was being feminized by being given Barbara's lines, which I can't say I feel that myself. I'm not sure what he means by that.
I'm not sure what he means by that. I will say he was given the damsel in distress role, but
yeah,
that's
it could be that issue. William Hartnell was also not a fan of a lot of this, and he was threatened with being fired by one of the people that made it. And then Maureen O'Brien also had a lot of complaints, and coincidentally, they decided just not to bring her back after a couple more stories. So that was why she didn't get to keep going.
That's sad.
But yeah, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff was not very nice for this story.
It makes me wish more of the live action survived, because I would have loved to have seen how they did more of it and to see if we could see hints of all that, you know?
Yeah.
To see more of like what they were complaining about, if we could actually like see it visualized.
Yeah.
But as a whole, between these two, even though they're really different from each other, did you enjoy Marco Polo or Galaxy 4 more?
Kind of liked Galaxy 4 a bit more.
Yeah,
personally.
I'm with you.
Like, it kind of helps when you get like this alien planet that they have to like bring to life and stuff, and that really helps sell ideas. I think like I tend to like the alien planet stories a bit more, I think, than the historicals, at least so far. Like in Modern Who, I like a lot of the historicals, but they're very different approaches, obviously.
Yeah, they're very different, because nowadays the historicals are all like oh no, there's an alien, and the alien's
Yeah.
gonna mess with history. Actually, I had a tweet about this. I had a tweet about this from after Marco Polo. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, is there? I can't name many modern Doctor Who episodes that are like history focused and mostly strictly history focused, like where there isn't an alien antagonist here to interfere with time and cause problems. Like the only ones that come to mind, and you can still argue against that for them, is Thin Ice with 12 and Bill with the last Great Frost Fair with like the giant
Yeah.
like prehistoric fish frozen in the ice, because there's no real alien there, and that's a threat. And
Yeah.
that adds more of like almost like a supernatural, I guess, or some sort of like prehistoric explanation for things at the Frost Fair. But there's nothing alien in that one. The biggest problem there is more so the history, and the same goes for the season 11 episode with 13th Doctor, Demons of the Punjab, because the alien assassins are there to just observe.
Yeah.
The
I
threat
know,
is the history.
I know it was a definitely like a purposeful thing that they stopped doing pure historicals.
Right.
Like pure historicals are really only like a first Doctor thing, I think, and then
Yeah.
I think the second Doctor maybe had a couple, but they noticed like they across the board historicals were typically getting like way lower viewership, so they just kind of stopped doing them.
It's just unfortunate
And
because I
then-
think there's a lot of really interesting things they could do with it. That every time we get a historical piece and like, oh no, there's an alien here to interfere, it's just like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think definitely these days it would be nice to just get like pure historicals here and there, but
Mhm. Which were
I
which
guess-
was really like refreshing about there were two Jodie episodes that were like almost that, and his Demons of the Punjab was almost that, and Rosa was almost that, because it was someone from the future coming to interfere with time, but there wasn't like a big bad alien. It was another time traveler. That also feels closer to it because the problem was more so the history, and you know the fact that history is being threatened in a very realistic way, unfortunately. I think those are like the only three modern episodes I can think of that are historical and mostly historical. Don't really have a big alien, big bad to it all, which is surprising to me.
And coincidentally, I think those are kind of like the best ones they've done.
Yeah.
Like Demons of the Punjab and Rosa, I would say, are probably my two favorite historical episodes of Doctor Who.
I really like Thin Ice as well with 12 and Bill, like I mentioned, just because I think that one is actually like it's actually pretty underrated, I think.
And it helps with their dynamic because that's like the second episode, right?
Third.
If I'm not
It's
mistaken.
the third episode.
Third?
It's when she really starts like, you know, have you ever killed anyone? Like she really starts to kind of like get an idea of who he is.
Another historical I liked was the Nikola Tesla one as well.
Oh, I love that.
That was a very good episode.
But that is definitely an episode of, oh no,
that's
there's
definitely
aliens
sci-fi.
interfering. Yeah. No, that definitely fits into that other ballpark. But that was a really good historical episode we had in recent years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's having watched all the way through Marco Polo. I respect Marco Polo, and I hope we get into modern era stories like that again. Now that we're so far removed from the original time of these, that's basically where I'm at with those. Of these two, though, I did prefer Galaxy 4. I think just it felt like more was happening, and there was more development for all the characters involved.
Yeah. I do have to say, it was very weird hearing the name of the villain in this story being Maga. No, it's that kind of aged in a certain way. And I mean, it's a villain named Maga who spreads misinformation among her supporters in order to tell them that the things that look differently from them are evil. Not to get political, but that certainly aged in a certain way.
That definitely aged in an interesting way. Yeah, I had that back in the back of my head. I'm like, that's a really weird coincidence. Maybe the Doctor is real and there is time travel, and that's why these things happen. Who knows?
Yep.
But moving on from these classics, we have some big news actually in the world of modern Who and things like that, because as of recording, it's Comic-Con. It's San Diego Comic-Con. So we've had some new announcements. Finally, last episode, we talked about the rumors behind this. We finally have the official announcement of The War Between the Land and the Sea. This long-rumored spin-off of Doctor Who, starring some cast from UNIT, and about the Sea Devils. What we now know about it is a 5-episode special, essentially. So it's like the Disney Plus Marvel MCU series. Is what I get the impression of. This is not a new Torchwood or Sarah Jane Adventures or anything like that that's going to get multiple seasons. This is like a 5-episode little event for Doctor Who. And its cast is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We have... I'm going to butcher this name. I feel so bad. Gugu Mbatha Raw, who nowadays is more so known for her role in Loki, but was originally in Doctor Who in season 3. We'll come back to that in a second, because the other star is Russell Tovey, who also has been in Doctor Who before. Both of them are playing completely new characters. But originally, Russell Tovey was Alonzo from the Titanic episode, who then later on ends up with Captain Jack Harkness, which is kind of funny. And Gugu played Martha's sister in season 3. And what's so fascinating about that, and really ironic, is that so many of the rumors about this show for the last month or two have been that it's Martha Jones. It's Freema Agyeman coming back to play Martha Jones, starring in this show. Yeah. And instead we have the actress who played her character's sister.
Yeah. I do have to wonder if maybe Martha would still be in it, because he did say there is going to be more cast members that we haven't announced yet. Yeah. He did say that at the panel. But obviously the issue would be you can't just have the actress who played her sister there and have Martha there. Unless she's playing a Sea Devil and she's under makeup all the time or something like that.
That's true. She could be a Sea Devil.
Because obviously you have to have your main villain.
Yep.
As a Sea Devil. So she could be like the Queen of the Sea Devils or something, and then you could still have Martha show up. But I believe he did say that these are the two leads of the show.
Yeah. They're probably people that work for UNIT or get involved with UNIT, since the other stars they already announced are Kate Stewart and Colonel Abraham. So
yeah.
It's hard to say. Because I think we're going to be following these two. I think it's possible Martha is in at least one episode, but filming hasn't happened yet. So
yeah,
the rumors about Martha coming back, I don't know. I genuinely think because they got everything else right about it so far. When it's filming, what it's called. I feel like there was miscommunication, and an actress related to Martha Jones came up, but then somewhere down the grapevine was taken as Martha Jones is coming back.
Yeah, that's possible.
So I have a feeling she won't be, to be honest. I'm very curious what characters these two are going to play, and if there's going to be any reference at all to their past Who experience. I doubt it, but...
Yeah. It's also... It runs in the family now that you have... they return as a different character, because obviously Freema Agyeman played 2 different characters.
Yep. Yep.
She was in season 2.
Yep.
And then they just retconned that she was the cousin of the family.
Yeah, she mentioned that was she was Martha. I think they said that was Martha's cousin in season 2 instead, which is funny, but I don't know. I'm definitely curious about it. Could this be a relative of Martha, but not her sister, some other cousin?
Yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting that it's basically just they just kind of want to do serial stories. Right?
Yeah.
It's just a 5-part serial now. So they definitely are kind of pulling back from classic Who ideas of just having a 5-part serial essentially, and that is what our standalone spin-off is.
And instead of a standalone spin-off series that has multiple seasons or whatever, we'll probably just have characters like Kate Stewart that appear in these different ones to tie it together, or companions that come back in them and tie it together. And I actually think this works, not because the Marvel MCU shows work so well or anything like that. It's because I feel like shows like Sarah Jane and Torchwood, after a few seasons, they like the best season of Torchwood is Children of Earth, which is a 5-episode event.
Yeah,
that worked as a like single serial kind of thing. That's when it was successful. And I think these different sides of Doctor Who work best that way, because when you have long seasons of it, it starts to feel a little weird that the Doctor isn't there. So much so that the Doctor has appeared in Sarah Jane Adventures at least twice, because it felt weird that he wasn't there so much. But she's having all these adventures that he's somehow not there for.
Mm-hmm.
So isolating it to like specific serials and treating them like little events that then could also get some sort of mention or have some sort of influence on the next actual seasons. I think that's actually kind of cool and a good way to go about it that viewers can jump on board with and not look at it later on and be like, oh, that's a 5-season show I have to watch. I don't know about that.
Yeah. You do have to wonder a little bit, like, obviously if there's an entire war between Sea Devils and humans, you do kind of wonder why the Doctor's not there, but I guess if it doesn't take too long, you can just say that Doctor just, like, wasn't on Earth for a month or two.
Yeah.
It's apparently supposed to be a full-scale war and stuff.
There's a fantastic moment in Torchwood Children of Earth where the main character, Gwen, actually, like, asks, why isn't the Doctor here? You know, the Doctor, she met him in Stolen Earth Journey's End. She knows Jack's Doctor. She's heard the stories about him. Why was he not here to help what's going on? And she has this whole little story that she tells that she believes, you know, kind of like looking back on what has happened over the course of Children of Earth, that the Doctor sometimes is just too ashamed to come and help. And it's their problem to solve. Like, how dare they kind of thing. Expect me to solve this one for them. And it's such a powerful scene, and that really resonates with me because that's something I feel like Capaldi would do, specifically.
Yeah.
The idea of, this is your problem to solve, do not expect me to solve this one for you. And if I remember correctly, the premise between war between land and sea is the Sea Devils have woken up and they've seen what humans have done to the ocean. You know, basically, Praxeus, and basically the idea of Praxeus from season 12 with Jodie. And they're not happy about it, and that's why they're at war. And I can actually see that being a case of the Doctor being like, no, you have to solve this one for yourself. They're from the planet, they're angry at you for what you're doing. I can't just erase all your plastic for you.
I guess it's also like the Silurian two-parter that they had, where it's like you both have a claim to this planet, and it's not really my place to decide for the planet.
Yep. And
what
he
happens.
has Amy and Nazarene be the ones to actually like talk with the leader of the Silurians. I remember that one. I still want them to go back and find them.
They should tie that in. Maybe if Chibnall comes back, we'll get him to write a sequel to it.
I really want that, because I wanted Nazarene as a companion, because she was actually really cool in that story. Anyway, getting like really off track there. No, I think the War Between Land and Sea has potential to be like a really cool story. Like, I think people are really underplaying what they might do here, because they were let down by Legends of the Sea Devils. That Easter special from a couple years back.
Yeah, nobody really liked that story very much.
Sadly, it wasn't good. There was a lot of problems with that. There were good ideas. There was a lot of problems in that episode. Unfortunately. Yeah.
The only part I really liked was just Yaz and the Doctor having their talk. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That was a good moment, but like, it's too much of that episode was done poorly and not utilized well. And the fact that it was blown up to be a special and not just a random episode in the middle of the season. I think the War Between the Land and the Sea won't suffer from that, though. I think if it's a 5-episode miniseries, I think it's going to get the time it needs to develop.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful towards it.
They did also officially announce that it is directed by the guy that did 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble.
Yep. Which was also
that is our director.
Which is why it's so weird that the Martha part wasn't, but everything else was accurate.
Yeah. I guess we'll just have to wait until they start filming to know if maybe Martha does show up at some point.
I'm wondering if it's because they just don't know if what if it's just she can't commit yet because she's still the rumors were that this wouldn't start until September because she's still filming something else. She's doing like stage play or theater play, I think, until the end of August. So what if it's quite literally just they can't commit to her being there. They can't announce her until they know for sure from her schedule when that's done if she can do it.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I could also just see that, like, they were told, like, somewhere along the grapevine, they were told it's the actress who played Tish Jones that is in this.
Yeah,
and then somewhere along the line that morphed. That definitely would make sense for that mistake to happen.
It really depends on, like, how many people this information passes through before it gets posted online, right? Like, if it's a game of telephone, we're just glad they got what they got right. They got that right at least.
Yeah.
But the same day, other than the war between the land and the sea, we also had a special, like, first look at the upcoming Christmas special by Stephen Moffat, Joy to the World. I'll throw this one to you because it's all about you.
I like that we have a woman named Joy, and she seemingly isn't going to die as quickly as the one that was in the Silence two-parter.
You get your time to shine in Doctor Who.
Yep.
Do you think she'll step into the TARDIS at all?
I'm not sure, because, like, there's the weird thing that they're doing with doors and stuff. It seems like they're, like, there's, like, maybe another ship that just has, like, doors to random places across Earth, and I feel like it might kind of focus on that.
Yeah.
They might focus there instead of TARDIS stuff.
Yeah, I do have a feeling it's going to be mostly focused on Earth and using those doors to get between different places. I'm definitely curious what's going on with this special. I mean, we see what looks like the hotel manager for the hotel that Joy is in is a Silurian. All right, sure. Yeah. That's odd. The Doctor going to all these different places just trying to provide good room service, but never to the right place. And the one thing I keep seeing everybody say about this is, from what we've seen in this episode, this could have just been a Matt Smith Christmas special. You could have had Matt Smith play this exact role as the Doctor, and from what we've seen so far, feels exactly the same. Yeah. And I'm very curious what the full thing's going to look like. Because I do agree, this does feel like some of the earlier Stephen Moffat Christmas specials at first glance from this preview.
Yeah, I feel like it's difficult to really say that because, like, you don't get to really see that much of the Doctor.
No, exactly.
Like you kind of do. Like, he's in most of the trailer, but he's not really doing that much in it. He's just trying to deliver.
He's being, like,
a
little
plate
goofy
of food to someone. So it's like, I feel like once we get the full episode, we will get to see how he differs from the 11th Doctor and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just everybody's looking at what he's doing here, and they're like, yeah, I could see Matt Smith doing all of that in his Fez for a Matt Smith Christmas special, and it would have been exactly the same. But that's, like, the opening to the episode, basically. Who knows what will happen to the rest of this episode?
I do kind of wonder if it, like, are all those different sets just going to be used the once, or are they going to go back there, or, like, what are they going to do here?
Oh, I think they're definitely just the ones.
Yeah. It is also interesting how it's like, you know, we have had random doors taking people to different parts of the history of Earth before. Yeah. We did that in Doctor Who Flux. So, like,
we did that in Flux. We also did that in... Oh, God, well, I can't remember the name of the episode offhand, but it was the Capaldi episode where everything was actually a simulation.
Oh, yeah. I guess that was there.
Yeah, so we've done that a few times now.
Yeah, you do kind of wonder if maybe they'll find a way to, like, tie in, even just like Doctor Who Flux, like the dude that did that.
Mad Mole, yeah.
I kind of wonder.
Yeah, that would be interesting, actually.
That guy's actually, like, a real person who actually did dig tunnels under London, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's why they played.
Maybe it won't tie into that, but it would be a bit funny if they just bring it up or something.
It could tie into the idea if he just, like, healing.
He just mentions, like, this is, like, the third time I've found a place that just brings you across the entire planet.
That's true. If he references it, that would be nice. Otherwise, yeah, I imagine like it might be some weird, like, time issue, but I don't know. We
Yeah.
got to see. We're currently in July, so it'll be a little while until we actually get these answers for the Christmas special, but it'll be a good time either way.
Yeah. At first I was wondering if like those doors were connected to the TARDIS or something, but it didn't really look like the TARDIS behind. Like if you look behind him, it doesn't really look like the TARDIS there.
Yeah, it
then
does
also-
look like a ship, but it doesn't specifically like the TARDIS.
Yeah, and then also like the Silurian comes out of it at the end there, so
Mm-hmm.
seemingly you wouldn't just have like a random Silurian in the TARDIS.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think my biggest question is more so about this one-off companion, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
I want her to make it to the end of the episode. I don't want her to die at the end. But I also I need to see what she's going to bring to it, to have a reason for why she doesn't just become a companion from here on out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, because most of the time if we have a one-off companion, the reason why they don't come back is because they either die or their story is fully wrapped up in that episode and they're like at peace.
Yeah. Like we don't really know that much about like why she's even at this hotel or anything yet, so I'll
All
have
we
to
know
see
is
what her
she's
story
lonely. All we know is she's lonely.
is. And she's lonely enough to talk to a fly that she finds in her room and say like, "Welcome to my room."
this poor girl. This poor girl.
It is a little funny though, because like Stephen Moffat has done a Christmas story where the intention was to make the character into a companion, and then that never happened. Because that was the one with the face crabs. Like the blonde girl in that episode was originally intended to be Clara's replacement, but then, well, she was intended to be that if they couldn't convince Jenna Coleman to come back, but they really wanted Jenna Coleman to come back.
Yeah, you could really feel how weird that was in the series 8 to 9 period of will she, won't she? Like, you could really feel that.
Yeah. I mean, they even have like a cliffhanger for that character at the end where she's like writing in notes about like her ex-boyfriend or something, and then we just we don't know anything about that.
Yeah, but then you also have the weird moment there where like, was that still part of the dream because of the amount of inception they had there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why they were still in a dream though was also because the original intention was it would just end with old Clara.
Yeah,
and then they had to undo that.
I still wish that did.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been getting really off track this episode, but it's actually been a lot of really fun discussions here. But that does cover like everything mainly for this episode. So
I would like to also mention that there was a lot of news recently about like people writing about like, is Disney Deal going to come up? It's not really worth getting into too much, but one of the articles did get a comment from someone at like either Disney or at BBC, and their comment was, we haven't really decided what's happening with that deal, but we are currently under production of the next season and the spin-offs with an S.
Spin-offs plural. Yep.
So I don't know if that was intentional that they were saying that, but implication is that there's more than one spin-off coming.
And I mean, we knew RTD wanted that as well. Like we knew with him coming back to Doctor Who with Disney, he wanted spin-offs plural. So that's hardly surprising. Yeah. And I feel like basing it off one season is like really hard to tell, right? Like I don't think you can look at the one season and be like, oh, yep, it's doomed from here. I think you need to look at like all the projects that they already signed on for to really gauge how it'll go. Because I could see it happening of they don't perform as well as they want, so it doesn't become a front and center thing at Disney, but it still keeps going because of the money they've put in and the fact that it is successful. It's just not as successful as they would like it to be. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is that like it's also just releasing at a bad time because like not that many people really want to watch TV in like the spring.
No.
You know, people that go outside don't watch TV in the spring. Yeah, that's why you typically have your big releases in November and stuff. So like, the ratings aren't as bad as people try to make them out to be.
No, it's right now.
It's also just like
thing.
You know, when you have a streaming service, especially, people will wait till the whole season's over and then they will subscribe to that service for a month and then they will just watch it. Yep. So like, you know, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Another comment they had was like the someone at BBC had said that like, or at Disney, I think, said the ratings are okay. They're just not stellar. But then there was also like it's like averaging at like 10th or 15th overall and stuff. So it's like it's not terrible.
No, not at all.
They're low, but it's not like there's understandable that it's low.
There are other
stuff.
shows that are considered thriving that are in worse positions. So I think we're good.
I think people were saying even that like if you look at like the average ratings for the week, it's like at the same spot as Series 1 was at the time. So like
right. Which is a good comparison.
It's fine.
Yeah. That is
It's just
actually
that
a really good
people
point of
don't-
comparison.
People don't watch TV all that much these days, especially when it's just on a streaming service and you can go back to it whenever you want to.
Yep.
Not that many people watch it day one.
Nope, exactly.
And even if the Disney deal falls through, Doctor Who's not going anywhere. Don't worry about that.
BBC would still do something. I imagine if Disney loses it, so many other companies would be like, "Oh my god, give that to us," because they would treat it as their saving grace, and they would put the money in to make it one of their saving graces.
Yeah.
The only way Doctor Who could ever go down is if the BBC goes down and chooses to not give it to anything else. They say no, this stays on our sinking ship.
Technically, right now, I would have to assume Bad Wolf Studios would get it in that case because they currently have like half of the production rights. So
exactly, it's there's too much in it, and it's too complex in terms of how it's interwoven into different studios for it to simply go down because Disney or something like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I guess that's it.
yeah, but that covers news. That covers our thoughts on Marco Polo and Galaxy 4. So, Joy, can you tell us what to expect for next episode and how to prepare for that one?
Next episode's going to be a little weird because there is Mission to the Unknown. Mission to the Unknown is a 1-episode story which has a live-action recreation of it that was done by, I think, like a university. Worked with the BBC to do, like, essentially it's an authentic attempt at recreating it as a 1960s show. So, like, it's still in black and white, and it has, like, production values of 1960s Doctor Who. And that you can just find on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. So just go to Doctor Who YouTube channel and type in Mission to the Unknown, and it's just there.
Okay.
So, it's easy to find. And then the other story is The Myth Makers, which is 4 episodes. They are all missing, but there's Loose Cannon Productions did reconstructions of them, which is what we watched for Marco Polo. Myth Makers is going to be us saying goodbye to Vicky. And we will be saying hello to a new companion by the name of Katarina. I will say don't get attached to her.
I was going to say, I don't even recognize that name, so I can't imagine she's there for long.
she has less than 100 lines in her entire tenure on the show.
Oh my god.
She disappeared. Well, we'll
get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
She's in Mythmakers and Dalek Master Plan. That's all I'll say for now.
Wow. All right. She's a companion for the Dalek episode. Gotcha.
And I think she's only in like the last episode of Mythmakers, from what I understand. So
yeah, like Steven was in last season. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to keep up with these with us, you guys can keep up with our Patreon. You can support us on Patreon for $1 a month to get into our Discord, and we'll be encouraging discussions for these episodes, of course. So if you want to talk about these or, get this episode or future episodes early, as soon as it's available, just $1 a month on Patreon or $5 a month on Patreon, you can join us here in the chat while we record, and we can read off your comments. Maybe you watched the Marco Polo loose cannon reconstruction with us, and you think it was the worst thing Doctor Who has ever done, and you want to make sure we talk about that point. You can do that with us. But as a reminder, make sure to watch Mission to the Unknown from the Doctor Who YouTube channel and Myth Makers from Loose Cannon Reconstructions before our next episode. And if you support us on Patreon, you can get these early, you can talk with us about these episodes, and more. But with that, that'll do it for this episode. I have been Triss. You can find me on social media at Toontriss.
And I've been Joy. You can find me at Joy Content.
And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.